Nick Wright now joining us live. First things first. By the way, if you ran the Steelers, would you have been patient and signed Aaron Rodgers? What would you have done if you ran the Steelers?
I would have taken a totally different tact this offseason. I wouldn't have traded for DK Metcalf. I still would have traded away George Pickens. And I would have, as we are now seeing with TJ Watt wanting a new contract, I would have traded TJ Watt to get a first-round pick and something else. And I would have said, Mason Rudolph, you're the man. And I'd have run that team out there for 1 year to force a hard reset and go into next year, because they clearly didn't love the quarterbacks in this year's draft, to go into next year's draft with multiple firsts, multiple seconds, clean up their cap, their own really good pick, and have a reset from there. Because this game they're trying to play, when you play in a division with Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, that we're going to patchwork the quarterback position. And, you know, our mutual friend Kevin Clark speculated about this last week, and I think he's right, that Pittsburgh Steeler quarterback 2026 has Anthony Richardson's name written all over it, because that is a very, like, buy low, maybe you get something out of him. That's no path forward. And much like we say, when you pay a quarterback top dollar, you might then ask him to do more with less weapons-wise. When Mike Tomlin is your head coach, I think it is fair to ask his defense to do more with less from a personnel perspective. So if you could essentially get your future quarterback by moving off TJ Watt or using your own pick next year and have one gap year, so to speak, that's what I would have done. Instead, it would appear that the Steelers they built an entire offseason around a goal of, can we possibly, maybe, win a single playoff game for the first time in 9 years, even though it gets them absolutely no closer to Super Bowl number 7 for one of the most prestigious franchises in the history of the league. So I think it's a mistake, what they've done, and I think being in the Aaron Rodgers business is a mistake, and I think punting on a long-term quarterback solution is a mistake.
By the way, since Sam Darnold escaped the Panthers and the Jets, he's obviously a talented quarterback. So, you know, my history on projecting quarterbacks is not terrible. Daniel Jones, wow. Zach Wilson, and I'm pretty good. Pretty good. So, I'm not sitting on the fence. Shedeur Sanders will unseat Joe Flacco sometime in the first 7 to 8 weeks. First of all, the OTA reports were wildly cynical, optimistic. You couldn't trust any of them. They were all over the map.
Sure.
Give me project what this year is going to look like for Shedeur Sanders. Mine is week 7. The owner's like Dillon Gabriel small, Flacco's old, Kenny Pickett's boring. I want Shedeur Sanders, and the owner's going to get his way. The schedule's tough. They're going to get beat up by Burrow, Lamar, Goff, Love. Give me your projection.
Okay. All right, well, first of all, speaking of Dillon Gabriel being small, not to give your producers work on the fly, but if they could somehow in this segment or in the next pull up, if you go to the Browns official Twitter account, there is a short video of like the photo shoot. And Dillon Gabriel and Joe Flacco are both in it in the beginning before they take their picture. And when you say Dillon Gabriel small, I know Joe Flacco's a big guy, but he's not 6'8". And the way he towers over Dillon Gabriel makes it looks like it's bring your son to work day. I've never seen anything like it. It's startling. Yeah. How tiny Dillon Gabriel looks compared to Joe Flacco. So here's what I think, because I was not as high on Shedeur coming into the draft as some people. With that said, I certainly thought he was a better prospect than Gabriel. And Kenny Pickett, in my opinion, is not an NFL quarterback. We have seen that repeatedly. And Joe Flacco is good for, at best, a really hot month, maybe a decent 6 weeks, but we know at this point in his career there's an expiration. So here is what I would say, Colin. if Shedeur does not start games for the Browns this year, it's a major disappointment. And I know some people might be like, guys, he was a 5th-round pick. He's not supposed to. I understand that, but here is how I look at it. I don't think they're going to keep 4 quarterbacks. I know historically that's been done on the rare occasion. I don't think they're going to. That's just the picture of Gabriel versus Flacco and the other guys. I'm telling you, maybe it's the scope of the video I'm talking about. It's unbelievable. He's just towering over him. But no, so I don't think they're going to keep Colin 4 quarterbacks. I think they are going, my guess would be Flacco and Pickett are competing to be the starter, and whoever is not the starter of those 2 veterans, the Browns will try to trade one of them for like a conditional 7th to another team. And then they will want to roster both of their draft picks because you can't put one of them on practice squad. Another team could then just take him. So Shedeur's first objective should be, can I beat out Dillon Gabriel for the backup quarterback job? Can I, from now until September 1st, be better than Dillon Gabriel? I think he can. And if you go into this season as the Browns' backup quarterback, then you are eventually going to be the Browns' starting quarterback because Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco are absolutely not going to start all 17 games. So I think your projection about around midseason is a fair one. I think they have around a midseason bye. I don't have it committed to memory, but that's how I remember it. And so I think that's right. And if he doesn't, then the draft slide wasn't just about fame and drama and his dad and all that. It was the real football measurables that people were concerned about.
I got to throw this at you. I understand the cash A of coaching the Knicks. I like the cash cow of Cooper Flagg. There is no way I'm leaving Dallas and AD. So my argument is the Jason Kidd rumors. I wouldn't have fired Tibbs, but the rumors. So Jason Kidd gets the best player on either team, AD. 24-11, elite defender. All the bigs for the New York Knicks have issues, and Brunson's got defensive issues. And then the trajectory for Derek Lively and Cooper Flagg, the sky is the limit. If Lively was one of the top rim protectors in 2 years, he's 21. Cooper Flagg's 18, 19. I know the Knicks has cachet, and the East is weaker. I'm sorry. I get it. But if AD comes back, Gafford, Washington, Cooper Flagg, Lively, I can't. The Knicks have a bunch of guys. Mikal Bridges wants more money. Brunson's expensive. Cat's expensive. OG got paid. Josh Hart. It's a roster of ceilings. I cannot leave Lively and Flagg for that roster. Can you?
Oh, so yes, I can. And especially if I think if I leave, that Knicks roster might one day also have Giannis on it. So I think so first I want to give you credit because I've been peddling, and now I've been giving you credit for it, but I've been peddling your James Dolan sphere take to everyone who's in the market for it. And I know you talked about it again recently, which is Dolan got distracted by the sphere, which is what allowed the Knicks to become great. And then what I added to that take was all of a sudden the sphere's up and running, fully functional, and the Knicks are the hottest show in town, and James Dolan is like the kid in Toy Story who got, it's like Buzz Lightyear was the new toy, and then he's like, you know what, I always loved Woody the most anyway. And now he's like, this is really where I want to be. Fire the coach, bring in somebody. Right. So I do think you nailed that. But where I disagree with you is I think that the barrier to entry in the West is so much higher than in the East. Cooper Flagg, the fact that he won't turn 19 until December is really good for the long-term projection of what he'll be, but it's also indicative that he's probably not going to have a real impact on winning for a few years. Even Wemby, who was a far better prospect than Cooper Flagg, we saw this year in year 2, prior to the blood clot, the Spurs still weren't winning. I think I disagree with you that Anthony Davis is the best player on the 2 teams. I think Jalen Brunson at this point is a more impactful player, if for no other reason than he's so much more available than Anthony Davis. And next year, The East next year is as wide open of a conference as any conference we've ever seen. You then add to it that I think the Knicks' entire plan here is Jason Kidd, who coached Giannis, who Giannis liked. If we hire Kidd, does that tip the scales to Giannis not only asking for a trade, but asking for a trade specifically to New York? So, and by the way, Jason Kidd has always been a guy with a wandering eye as a player or as a coach. And so I don't think he loved the Luka trade. I think he understands that right now, forget being a top 3 team in the Western Conference. Next year, the Dallas Mavericks are likely not a top 3 team in the state of Texas, with the Rockets and the Spurs ready to do what they are. And so if I were Jason Kidd, I would want the Knicks. I would want the easier path to the finals. I would want far better management than they has currently in Dallas, and I would want the chance to go get Giannis.
So I think the Pacers are a little outmatched. I think, Oklahoma City's led for 91 minutes, the Pacers too. And I think Oklahoma City, who I liked in the series, I'm sure you did as well, will win. But it is interesting. When Denver won the title a couple years ago, I was like, this is the Spurs with Duncan. And then it wasn't. And then when Tatum and the Celtics win, I'm like, 4, 6? I mean, they could go on forever. And then it didn't. Is that I look at Oklahoma City and I'm like, well, they're going to have to pay like Jalen Williams, and Holmgren's still hot and cold, and I love SGA. But I look at it and I think if Giannis went to San Antonio, it changes it. If Giannis went to Houston, I think Dallas is good next year. The Lakers could make something happen. I don't want to fall for it again. Let's say Oklahoma City wins and they win it in 5.
Yeah.
What is their trajectory? Do you see? Because I've fallen for it twice. And I'm like, slow down. They're not that good. Or are they?
No, I think they are that good. I also think that we are not in a dynasty era. I think that the aprons and the different things the NBA has put in to kind of prevent super teams has had that effect where even if you're the Celtics and you're homegrown, and not that they're all homegrown, but Tatum and Brown were, and you make really smart moves and all those things, your window's still relatively short, because now, even if Tatum were healthy, the Celtics would be selling off pieces this offseason. I also think it is instructive that if we look at, Colin, the last 7 champions, none of them the following year have made it past round 2. No one's come close to defending their title. And of the last 6 champions, the only one to make a conference finals at any point post-championship was actually the Lakers when they made it a few years after they won in 2020, when they made the conference finals in 2023. Last year's champ got clipped in round 2. The year before champ got clipped in round 2. The year before that, the champ, the Warriors, missed the playoffs, and the champ the year before that, the Bucks, got clipped in round 2. We are not in a dynastic era right now. And so I applaud you for not making the mistake that so many people I see making, which is the exact same people who promised me the Nuggets were about to reel off a bunch, and as of a month ago, 1 month ago, a lot of people thought we were in the Celtics era, and now today they're like, turns out it's not the Celtics era. In fact, it's someone else's era. It's the Thunder era. In the NBA, it always feels like the team that just won is always going to win. And in large part, that's because for a lot of NBA history, that was true. In the last decade, that has not been true. And so I would not yet pencil in the Thunder for multiple championships, even though I agree with you. I think they are going. I don't see a single matchup that Indiana has the advantage in, and I don't think a single Pacer can feel good about how they've played. Colin, did you realize the Pacers haven't had a player score 20 points yet? Not one player scored 20.
Well, look at
30,
how
20.
Look at. I mean, if you start looking at if you start looking at what Oklahoma City's defense has done, I mean, people forget this because we don't watch the regular season like the postseason. They won by an average of 13 points. That is hard in the West. That's not in the East. That's in the West. If you look at Oklahoma City's record against the East, I don't have it, as you said, committed to memory.
29-1. They were 29-1.
Okay, now I want to show this. And my take on the Browns quarterback is one quarterback's too old, one's too small, and then one is too boring.
Hold on.
Here's the video.
That does not look like it's two pros. I mean, that when you see Flacco walk over there, it looks like it's someone who, like, works for the Browns social media team. Like, again, I understand that, and I'm not trying to be unfair, and I think Dillon Gabriel's a really cool story. But I don't like, just watch him when he walks over if it replays. I don't love super skinny NBA players, and I don't like small quarterbacks. Like, that is great. I mean, Flacco's a big guy. He's not Brock Osweiler. And so, I don't know, man. Like, I just can't imagine. You watched more Oregon football than me, but I don't think you were watching Oregon this year and like, well, that guy's probably a Week 5 NFL starter. And, I mean, Flacco does him the courtesy of, kind of squatting down in the picture to not tower over him in the team photo. Shedeur should be able to beat him out. And Shedeur should be able to beat out Kenny Pickett. And Joe Flacco, because of his age, we know he's not going to start the whole season. I think it will be a very ominous sign, to your point from the beginning, if Shedeur is not the starter at some point.
Yeah. No, I watch 8 Oregon games a year, and my take was that's a hell of a college player. And you see that all the time. Yes. I see guys all the time. I'm like, that is a great college player. And then sometimes, like the Arizona State had that running back, Scadaboo. Yeah, like I looked at him and I'm like, I remember asking myself, don't fall for it. And then the more I watched him bounce off people, I'm like, okay, that's an NFL player. He's not a first or second round guy. He's a fourth, fifth, sixth round guy. So I mean, Dillon Gabriel, I looked at as like a 6th round quarterback at best.
You know who he reminded me of? He wasn't as good in college as the player I'm about to mention. And, this is a colleague and a friend, so I hope this is not taken as an insult because it's a compliment. But he reminded me of Chase Daniel, where it's like, oh, okay. And Chase was a great college player. Chase was in the Heisman race at one point. But you looked at him and you said, okay, because of his size, his ceiling on the next level is long-term backup. And Chase, to his credit, was a great, a professional backup for more than a decade. I would imagine that's how Dillon Gabriel's even family and agents looked at it. Like, hey, you do everything right, and you can be on an NFL roster for a decade, maybe a spot starter, and then, use that as a pipeline to coaching or whatever it is. I don't think people were like, Dillon Gabriel is going to be our Kyler Murray. Like, he's not that player. Yeah. And so that's what I thought. So Shedeur should have an opportunity there, a real opportunity.
Nick Wright, first things first. Good seeing you, my man.